Sure. Tell me when I can go. Do you have a role model? Somebody that you look up to? I'm sure you do. And I'm sure, just like me, you have many role models. But who are they? And where do we find them? Quite often, we look back in our history, often at the bleakest parts, to look for those that did something special, that did something unique in the face of adversity. Those that innovated, those that struggled, those that led, those that resisted. And we try and capture their spirit into an amulet of inspiration that we can hold close to us, that when life tests us, we can draw strength from their history and from what they did. And you and I will share some of these role models, names like Shivaji, Jhansi Ki Rani. Philosophers like Maitri and Gargi come to mind, as do more contemporary figures like Sheryl Sandberg or Michelle Obama. Now, each of these people, they've achieved amazing things. They've done things that we aspire to do. We hope that we will either match them or surpass them. And by looking at their lives, we look to redefine or, find our purpose in life. What is our mission going to be? And that's often how we package and how we think of our role models. But what if today I said to you, it could be different? What if some of our role models didn't have to do extraordinary things? What if they could do simple things, but extraordinarily well? Now, you might rightly ask me, what does that look like, Drishti? And so I ask you to imagine this. Imagine everyone in your life whizzing right by, always just a little bit too busy for you. Imagine you being the stabilizing force in your household, doing all those little things that no one ever notices, no one ever appreciates, and yet you still smile through it all. Imagine your old age when your body starts to give up on you and you feel frail and things ache, yet you still smile even though you know you're losing your independence. I have the good fortune of being a descendant of such a human. I was even more fortunate that between the ages of 7 and 8.5, I lived with her. Gentle, joyous, and most important, consistently kind. My Nani Ma. Her name was Gulbano. And even though I was fortunate to have met her and to have lived with her, I never truly met her. And today she lives on in my mind like a ghost or a spectre, guiding me through life with these simple principles of gentleness and kindness. My Nani Ma, she laughed a lot. She'd laugh when she was tired, when she would be tired and she'd come and sit on the sofa that we had at home and she'd collapse and the sofa would creak. She'd laugh. She'd laugh when my mother would look at her annoyed with all the noise she was making. She'd laugh when the Parkinson's that she had would mean that she would tremble and the food that she intended to eat ended up feeding the table or her lap. She'd laugh when her body gave her pain and she'd fall because she lost her balance. To this day, I don't know if my Nani Ma laughed for me and my mother. Well, empathy meant we felt her pain. Or if she laughed in joy with both the physical and the emotional pain that she felt. I like to imagine that she laughed with life as it unfolded. And I think this is the case because of what she saw in her 65 years of life. At the age of 12, my Nani Ma was married. As we've learnt today, that was pretty common in her day. By 13, she was no longer married. That wasn't common in her day. Again, by 13, she was remarried. And to this day, my family do not like to talk about it. It's an unspoken thing in our history, but it happened. She was born in India, was married and lived in Kampala in Uganda. By the time she was a young mother, the exodus of Uganda meant that she had to be uprooted once again and moved to the town of Sunderland, where she understood no one without her husband, who stayed back in Kampala to secure the rest of the family. So she found herself in a land where everyone talks really funny, in a different language that she didn't know, raising 3 young children. Her husband joins her, and she moves to Leicester, where things maybe are a little bit more comfortable, and her family is together again. By the time she's in her 50s, my Nani Ma is a widow, has 1 daughter, her middle child, married, who lives in Sweden with 5 grandchildren that she barely sees. Her eldest and her youngest are both divorced and caught up in legal proceedings with custody battles for their children. She once again finds herself alone. Life wasn't gentle to her. It tested her. She had gentleness in her bones. I remember her as my protector, the woman I couldn't understand. She spoke Gujarati, I spoke Kutchi. But when my mom ran after me, she'd tell her to calm it and put the vellum in her hand down. And through all of life's challenges, she smiled. She had gentleness in her bones, even if she ended up spending most of her days alone. This woman I never really met. Her name was Gulbanu. And whilst Google can't tell me much about what her name means, I imagine it's related to the word gulab, which means flower or rose. And I imagine that I, just like you, will meet her in every expression of joy uncontained. Dhanyavad and namaste.